So welcome to the Logistics Point interviews. We are joined by Katie Langley from Doddle, and we're going to talk about home delivery and how consumers are feeling it and what logistics is doing. You mentioned home delivery, and I want to jump right into it. Do you think the model we are using is broken?
Yes and no. I think from a consumer's perspective, they can order anything from the endless aisles of the internet. They can have it delivered to their door, the next day at a fairly low cost or, sometimes free. From a consumer's perspective, it's not a great experience. Drivers are under an increased amount of pressure to deliver parcels quickly at a low cost. And I think that has an impact on the customer experience. You often get scenarios, unfortunately, of parcels being left on your doorstep or put in a safe place. I think also from a carrier perspective, it's probably broken as well. We've had a situation where e-commerce parcels have hugely increased over COVID. And now we're in a scenario where actually e-commerce volumes are reducing, but we're about to go into a peak period. So we're having fluctuation of, the number of parcels that need to be delivered to home. And I think that fluctuation causes challenges, for carriers and for retailers and merchants. I think something that we're specifically seeing in the UK and a number of other countries across the EU is, we have a lack of drivers and we have a lack of vans. And actually that then obviously has a negative impact on how, the carrier can deliver that parcel, the cost of delivering that parcel, the amount of parcels that driver then has to deliver on its route, again, has that negative impact, which in turn has an impact on that customer experience. I think the other thing about home delivery for me is we often hear carriers talk about sustainability. We hear customers say it's really important to them. But the truth is, delivering 50 parcels to 50 homes is not sustainable. If we want e-commerce to grow and we want customers continue to buy things online, we have to come up with an alternative, sustainable option.
How can it be improved? And it's not just for the customer, also for the drivers, as well as, for the company that is delivering.
I think we've got ourselves in a situation where customers believe that delivery should be fast and it should be free. But really, if a customer wants an item quickly, they should have a cost associated. If you want that item the next day, you should pay accordingly. And actually, if you don't need it so quickly, then perhaps it should have a lower cost. We come up with an alternative that is cheaper than home delivery, but as convenient for the customers. And, I think an out-of-home delivery network would be a good answer to that question. Carriers and retailers need to start pushing customers to alternative delivery solutions, which can be more cost effective, but just as quick. We know customers have a better experience when they use out-of-home delivery networks. We recently did an out-of-home report where we surveyed a number of retailers. And what was really interesting is customers using out-of-home delivery not only increased in NPS, but actually the average order value of that customer purchasing stuff from that retailer increased and the order frequency increased.
How easy is it to build such an out-of-home delivery network? I assume you can't just put a locker at the end of every street.
I think in truth, lockers have their place. It's automated. They can be, if they're outside, they can be accessed at any time. So it can be really convenient for the customer. I think they need to be in the right location. The ideal out-of-home network would consist of a mix of locker as well as man stores, whether that's third party or whether it's postal operators. And I think, carriers or post offices need to be able to set up the right network to be able to handle these parcels that are being sent to them. And I think the technology has to be seamless across the different endpoints that you have. The communication has to be seamless to the customer. The driver has to have be able to check in these parcels at out-of-home delivery networks, regardless of whether they're a locker or a third-party location. We see some people talk about being very close to home, like the slipper distance, so you can wander to it at the end of your home, or the trainer distance, somewhere you can walk to. I think really it depends on the area, whether you're talking about rural areas or urban areas, and whether people drive or when retailers look at their customer base, they need to be able to segment them. What demographic are they? What does convenience mean to them? Are people working from home? What age are they? There's varying different variables that we need to take into consideration when coming up with the ideal out-of-home network.
Is it just about the money, or is it about better communication on why, as a company, I'm doing this?
I think, how do retailers change the adoption of out-of-home delivery networks and, change the number of parcels going to home to go to that network? The home delivery tends to have the priority, right? And it's presented as the default option. And consumers don't get a choice at checkout about delivery. You have to purchase that item really before you know what carrier is being used. So I think when we talk about driving adoption into out-of-home network, it has to be about the merchant presenting the right options at checkout, putting out-of-home delivery on parity with home delivery. Other things that we know are important to present at checkout is having, the hours available to collect your parcel. Out-of-home delivery networks, third-party locations are open early, they close late. And I think another area that we don't see very often is presenting out-of-home delivery as the sustainable option. I think customers care about sustainability, but they don't realise the impact that home delivery is having.
And finally, I want to touch upon something that I know Doddle works quite a lot and you're passionate about, which is returns. And
Yes.
This is such a pain when it comes to home delivery or out-of-home delivery on so many levels.
Yeah.
How do we, I suppose, not necessarily fix it, but improve it?
Yeah, at the beginning you asked me if home delivery was broken. I think returns is broken, really. It's an area that, as you mentioned, is been quite underinvested in the past 10, 20 years. It hasn't moved at the same pace as some of the other, technology developments in this area. Carriers don't necessarily want to talk about it because it is the cost of, the unwanted costs of dealing with returns. And, up until about 2-3 years ago, merchants weren't really talking about returns because it was such a negative subject. But we actually see some of the larger retailers like Boohoo and ASOS starting to talk about the cost of returns and how it's impacting their financials, because it is such a negative experience at the moment and it has such a cost impact on the retailers. Doddle talk about an integrated returns journey, which means, when a customer puts in their order details on the merchant's website, it is presented with the items that are in that parcel. And then the consumer can then select the items that they want to return and why. And with that data, you can start to make more intelligent decisions about how you deal with that return. There are small and medium retailers out there that don't have the technical resource or the capability to be able to set up a digital integrated returns process. And I think we're seeing a lot of retailers looking to their carriers to be able to offer white labeled solutions that they in turn can present to their customer base.